Welcome to Woodcrest Villa's virtual kitchen tour. So typically this is something we would have that you could sign up for at the Welcome Center, but under the current COVID restrictions, we like to provide this virtual tour for you. So right now we are in the Hummingbird kitchen. We're just going to basically go around the kitchen. I'm going to be introducing different pieces of equipment, what we do with them, what a typical day would look like in dining services. So we're going to start out right here. This is the main production line. What we have here, we have a double stack convection oven. We actually have one on the far side of the kitchen there as well. So we use that from anything from cooking to baking. We'll do desserts in there, any of the casserole dishes, and we got a second one years ago because we've definitely increased the amount of from scratch cooking that we're doing. Next in line, we do have an Alto Sham. This is a smoker cooker. So it has the capacity to smoke proteins as well as slow cook them. It can be used as a holding cabinet as well. We use this quite frequently, especially on the weekends. If you've enjoyed our fresh roast turkey or some of the black oak ham that we serve, those proteins are slow cooked in our Alto Sham and then typically carved down during service during the dinner hours. And we do have one of those in the Bluebird kitchen as well. The one in Bluebird is not a smoker cooker, it's just basically a slow cooker. And next in line, we do have our 30-gallon soup kettle. This is used for making soups. We typically have one cook that's assigned to the soup of the day. You'll see that on our daily, weekly menus. We make it in one area, and basically that is dispersed then into the different areas throughout service for that day. So whatever would be made over here on a typical evening then would be used here and then also over at the Bluebird line. So the kettle is used quite frequently. Next in line we have the brazier. This is a tilt skillet brazier. So we will do many different items in here. Anything from the items like beef stroganoff, beef tips, pork and sauerkraut. We can fill this, forget how many gallons this actually is. I think it's, right there it is, 40, I believe that's a 40 gallon. So we can load this up, and a lot of times we will just let that simmer, in there, almost like a crock pot. So this is used quite frequently throughout the week as well. Behind us here, we're just going to go over here and show you some of the walk-in coolers that we have. Very large refrigerators and freezers. The first one we have here is the freezer. So this basically just contains all the food products that would be needed over in Hummingbird. In the Bluebird kitchen, we have a very large 3 walk-in coolers over there as well with a walk-in freezer. All of our refrigeration is monitored electronically. So anybody wondering, how do we take logs, to monitor temperatures as far as refrigeration and freezer temperatures? We actually have an electronic monitoring system through Siemens, which monitors our refrigeration 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So with that, if any one unit ever goes out of alarm, or into alarm I should say, that would notify, if it's after hours, that would actually notify our security team to let them know that there is a unit that needs to be checked out. And sometimes, all the time, we're very thankful for what security does, because a lot of times if it happens when we're not here, and they typically will catch that very, very quickly and can call maintenance in after hours, or if we need emergency service, we use Lancaster controls. So it helps us have assurance that all temperatures are being monitored and held. With main production, we used to get a lot of questions on our walkthroughs as far as, cooking temperatures, how long do you have to, cook certain items, what are the holding temperatures. So we have log books over here, and the different types of logs that we keep each day. We have to, anything that comes out of those convection ovens that we were talking about earlier has to be logged. We have to actually log endpoint cooking temperatures for items like poultry. That's got to be cooked to a minimum of 165 degrees for 15 seconds. Anything with ground beef, that's 155. Fish, that's 145 degrees, and so on and so forth. So all those items each and every day have to be basically the temperature taken as an end point cooking temperature. From there, whether that was cooked in one of our convection ovens or whether that was cooked in our brazier, it will go into a holding cabinet such as the Alto Sham that we showed you earlier. And then it has to be maintained above 135 degrees until service. And we try to time everything that we're doing it, we're preparing it as close to service as we can. Once we pull the items out of the holding cabinet and onto the serving line, we need to document I believe it's every 40 minutes, we do a temperature check every 20 to 40 minutes that it's maintaining a temperature of 135 degrees. Any items that were not used in the preparation process that are left over at the end of the night and not taken out to the main serving line, we are by code allowed to cool down, and we also have cooling charts as well. The cooling charts state that you have to cool it to basically 70 degrees within 2 hours and then below 40 degrees an additional 4 hours. All this documentation and all these different times and temperatures that I'm talking about have to be kept in these log books over here. And when we get our Department of Ag inspection, at times they will then ask and say, hey, I'd like to see your log books. So certain things they're going to look for is, do we know how long to cook that turkey, the poultry? Do we know how long to cook different items? Are we holding them at the proper temperatures? So on and so forth. So a lot of our day, along with the cooking, we do have a lot of logs to maintain throughout the day. We even have a log for checking the calibration of the thermometers that we use. So each day we do an ice slurry with a thermometer, and we will adjust and calibrate that to 32 degrees to make sure that we have the thermometers are taking a very, very accurate reading. And we also maintain those logs as well. Another log, for those that enjoy our coffee, we do a coffee log every day to make sure the coffee is not too hot. Don't want it too cold, don't want it too hot. We try to maintain that, I believe, between 185 and 190 degrees on a daily basis. So that being said, that takes care of this area, and we will move front to the main front line. Good afternoon. We are here today with Lori Benton, sous chef, and Ryan Gunzenhauser, assistant director, backhouse manager. We're here today to show you a little bit more about what a typical day looks like in dining service production. With that, I'll turn it over to Ryan. Currently, we are working on a baby back rib recipe, a barbecued baby back rib recipe. Ryan, tell us a little bit more about what goes into this recipe.
All right, like Sean said, I'm here with Lori. There's a lot that goes into our recipes here at Woodcrest Villa. The first thing we have to figure out is approximately how many portions we need. On a typical night, we do around 350 or so meals, and that's divided between the 4 entrees that we make. So for this particular entree, we're going to try to make about 175 portions, give or take. To do that, I've ordered in 145 pounds of baby back pork ribs from Groff's Meats. Groff's Meats is a local purveyor we use as part of our local purchasing program. They've been around for 4 generations. They're a family-owned business. They are located in E-Town, so one nice thing for us is if we need to run out to get something last minute, I can head up to E-Town and pick it up. But for this particular recipe, everything's come in. We took the time to hand cut all the ribs into approximately a 3-rib section for all of you. Lori's going to have them in the brazier today for about 2 hours, give or take. In doing that, we're boiling it down, getting that nice and tender. When she finishes that up, she'll take all of these out of the brazier. They'll go into these hotel pans over here on the prep table. As you can see, she has Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce over here. She's dumped a whole bunch of that into that huge mixing bowl. So what we'll do is get these drained off. We'll take them over here. Those will all get hand dipped into the barbecue sauce to make sure they're nice and coated. And we will pan them into these hotel pans. After she does that, we'll get them all loaded up. We'll fill our ovens. We have a double stacked Lodgett oven right here. It's one set of 4 that we have between our 2 kitchens. We'll put those back into the oven for approximately 45 minutes until they're nice and tender, and get them all garnished up for everybody to have at our dinner service this evening.
Thank you, Ryan. We just wanted to show you one small part of production as we go through our virtual tour.
Today we've got Nina Chantron. She's working on our soup today. Today's soup is going to be cream of broccoli. You can see if you get in here, she's been creaming it out for the last few minutes. We make all of our soups here from scratch at Woodcrest Villa, with the exception of Campbell's tomato soup. Everyone always asks us that, and until we can invent a tomato soup that's better than that one, we're going to use it. So, on a typical day, our cooks will come in. As you can see, Nina's working in a 30-gallon jacketed steam kettle. Jacketed steam kettle has 2 pieces of steel with water in between them around all sides that heats up super hot so that we can bulk cook all of the soup at one time. We get asked a lot of times, do you make your soups all in one place, or do you make them in both kitchens that you have here? The answer for that is that we make them all here in the Hummingbird kitchen. After she completes this today, she's going to go ahead and take that over to the 2.5-gallon soup wells that you guys see every night when you come to dinner, and we will disperse that out between our 2 kitchens in Hummingbird and Bluebird for you all for service.
Now we're currently on the front line of production. So on the front line here, we can make a lot of our sauces, gravies, reductions on our 8-burner stove. We typically have this humming pretty good each and every day in production. Along with that, then next we have our fryers. We don't fry as much as we used to, but there are still items that we will use the deep fryers for. Of course, you see them on the menu from time to time. Anything from our French fries or fried apple fritters, those types of items. And then next we have our char grill, which we've utilized more and more. We just got this here char grill, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. We had added this to our cooking preparations over in Hummingbird. But basically this is used for any items that you see that are stated as grilled items on the menu. Anything from our salmon with the Chardonnay, anything like grilled hot dogs and hamburgers. Typically we are grilling it on the main char grill here. Sometimes we're par grilling it, which means we're just marking it or giving it some flavor on the grill. And then at times we will finish that in one of the convection ovens that we spoke of on the front line just a little bit ago. And as we move down through, we have 2 double stacked steamers. So if you're wondering how all those vegetables get prepared every day, this is the 2 main pieces of equipment. If we're steaming vegetables, fresh vegetables, frozen vegetables, if we are steaming the whole peel potatoes, you'll see we have whipped potatoes on the menu quite a bit. These are used very heavily for those types of items. And we'll also use these with some of the soups as well to retherm them. So moving to the front of this line, I know right now we don't currently have the dining rooms open, but when the dining rooms are open, this is the area where the servers will come in after they've taken your order out in the main dining room. They'll place their tickets up here, and at that point there's one of our chefs or cooks will be behind the line right here, and they'll be plating up the different food items according to what the resident had requested from their table order. So post-COVID, this will be a very, very hopping spot again. Any given night, we have about 18 servers. That includes our host and hostesses, and that's between both areas to be able to accommodate service in Bluebird and Hummingbird. So this area is typically used for that. you'll see the soft serve ice cream machine up here as we come around the front here. It's a 2-bay ice cream machine unit. We sanitize this every night after service. That's one thing the inspectors look for as well. And we try to change those flavors up, as you well know. When we're back in service in the dining rooms, we offer at least 2 different flavors every night. With that, we will go on to the next area.
Assistant Director, Kitchen Manager, and Lori Benton, sous chef. Ryan's going to be talking a little bit today about the grilled salmon that we have on the current menu.
Hi everyone. Today we are working on our grilled salmon with Dijon Chardonnay sauce for dinner tonight. As you can see here, Lori is taking our whole salmon sides. We actually rub that down with just a slight coating of mayonnaise to help keep the moisture content in when we grill it, and it keeps it from not sticking to the grill as well. Here at Woodcrest, we use Henry's seafood for all of our seafood purposes. As you can see, we get in whole sides of salmon as they come in. So on a day like today, I'm ordering in about 80 to 100 pounds of salmon. Our team will take the time, they'll trim off all the belly meat and all those other things to get the fillets nice and ready for us for dinner. What Lori was doing here, basically she's just getting some grill marks on this salmon. We can't just grill it the entire way, it'll dry out until we get to our service. So she will grill mark these fillets and bring them over to the rack here. As you can see in this pan, this is what they look like after they get grill marks. We will take these and slide those into the oven to finish them later today. As you can see, it's quite a bit of sides. And Henry's does a really great job for us. They get all of our fresh seafood in. They are based in York County near Hellam. They actually run to the docks in Philadelphia 2 to 3 times a week to get fresh fish. It's a really great solid purveyor. They provide us with great prices. And we have a lot of stuff here that we get that we need a good sized quantity of, and it's not necessarily easy to get. So for example, we have swordfish on our menu on one of the weeks on a Friday night. They're actually able to go and get us marker swordfish out of Cape Cod or Florida depending on the season. And that fish is actually coming fresh off the boat, overnighted to us the next day. So you're getting the freshest possible product in here.
And now we're in our main hummingbird dishwashing area. This is a very hopping spot, different times of the day. Right now with the dining rooms being closed, it does support main production by helping to wash pots and pans and different utensils throughout the day. Pre or post-COVID though, this area will, wow, I'm trying to think how many meals we serve a night. So in the dining rooms, when we're back open, this will service roughly anywhere from 200 to 300 residents that come in to eat. Everything from soup to nuts that needs to be washed. That will happen in this area right here. This is a conveyor dishwasher. We have our chemical program through Ecolab. We're currently on their sustainability issue with an Apex program. With that program, we have non-caustic chemicals that we use for dishwashing, and they are phosphate-free as well. They're environmentally friendly and very non-caustic. With that program, we also have other initiatives that we do with a low-flow sprayer. Basically, it forces the water through a smaller orifice, which will make the pressure a little bit more, but less water is actually coming out. It saves us, if that were to be on for 1 minute, it would save us about a half a gallon of water straight use for 1 minute for the low flow pre-spray area. So this area here, when the servers come around, they will put their dirty dishes here, and we'll have one of our team members, and we're going to show you a clip on a little bit of that will run through, pre-spray as much as they can off in the pre-spray sink, and basically run through the conveyor dishwasher when it's put back together on different peg racks, and we have some of those peg racks right over here. And this is a high temp dishwasher. So what does high temp dishwasher mean? There's 2 ways you can sanitize dishes and flatware. One is high temp and one is low temp. So high temp uses a high temperature. So this here dishwashing conveyor machine will sanitize the high temp rinse, the final rinse at 180 degrees or hotter. So per Serve Safe and Department of Ag food service, that is hot enough to kill, potentially any harmful bacteria that's on it. And that comes out, usually right now we're running about 185 when that comes out. If our heating elements would ever go out, we do have the option to run this as a low temp machine. So what we would do, we'd have to hook up a sanitizer chemical to run through that final rinse. And typically the low temp machine would run about 130 degrees. But I'm happy to say this runs at high temp 99.999% of the time. So we do not have to use those chemicals. Other than that, if this ever would go out of range on the final rinse, we do have this hooked up to the Siemens alarm, which I spoke of earlier, that monitors all of our refrigeration temperatures. That's also monitored here on our dish machine final rinse to ensure that it in fact is bringing or sanitizing all the dishes at 180 degrees or higher. You may wonder, why is he talking about all these temperatures and these logs? Like I said before, so these are hot button topics that the inspectors from Department of Ag, that's who inspects us, same as any restaurants in the area that you'd see in the Sunday news when they print those up. So there are certain things that they look for, and they even say it on their application for the food and beverage license. They want to make sure that all utensils, all flatware, all china, everything is being sanitized, especially in a highly susceptible population such as a retirement home, including residential living like Woodcrest Villa. So very important, we monitor all of those systems. We do typically have about 2 to 3 team members back here when the dining rooms are open. Right now we're just running with about 1 or 2 to provide the takeout service model that we're currently in.
We are here with Tanner Beck today. Tanner is one of our college kids, helps out with filling daytime shifts for dishwashing and also evening shifts. Right now he's running through basic procedure for running the conveyor dishwasher. This is a high temp dishwasher and pretty simple to operate. Tanner, does it get pretty warm back here during the summer months?
It gets very steamy back here.
Very steamy, yes. I'll give them a shot here when it comes out on the other side. As I stated before, this is a high temp dishwasher, so it comes through roughly at 180 degrees. I'll do a pan shot of the gauges right here. That last gauge is the final rinse gauge. As you can see right now, it's breaching 180. It's actually going up to 190 degrees. And when the items come out on the other side, they can be quite warm. All right, thanks, Tanner.
This is our pot and pan scrub area. So many of those items that may not get cleaned over by the main conveyor dishwasher area, we do have a pot and pan scrubbing area. So over here, it's a 3-bay sink. I'll move some of these trash cans. The typical 3-bay sink is set up as a wash, rinse, and sanitize. And with that, we do use a chemical sanitizer over here. It's a multi-quat sanitizer. And this is another one of those logs that we were talking about, where we have to maintain a log that shows when we filled up this here sink with our quad sanitizer, that we basically had a dilution of sanitizer between 200 and 400 parts per million of that sanitizer. That ensures that everything was sanitized correctly, and then we basically air dry that, and then we return that to the different racks out over in the kitchen area or any utensils that were cleaned over here. We also have a pre-scrub area for those items. If you've ever done filling at home, or maybe some of those casserole, like green bean casserole, some of those pots and pans can get really stuck on food, things like that, where they need an extra scrub. So this area is, we can soak those items over here, do a deep scrub on them before actually moving them over to the 3-bay sink, for the sanitation process and then the air drying process. And one other thing I wanted to add this is kind of the last area in the Hummingbird Kitchen as we're wrapping it up. The Hummingbird Kitchen is our main hub. So each day for production, when the cooks and the chefs come in, everybody meets here. The managers meet here. Typically Ryan and I will meet in here with the kitchen managers and the sous chefs just to kind of map out the day. You know, what's on today, what needs to be done, and have a good overview of the day. So pretty much everybody, as far as the main meal, not talking about Garden Cafe, they have their own production area on the other Bluebird side. But as far as main production, main meal, everybody meets over here. And then from here, typically they'll work up till about our lunchtime, which is around 1:30. And then from that point, part of the crew will go over to the Bluebird side to set up and get ready for dinner. Right now that starts, I think the first takeout shift is at 3 o'clock currently. So when they come back from break around 2 o'clock, they're setting up over there, and then part of the team will remain here as well. So with that, I want to thank you for tuning in to watch our virtual kitchen tour, and I also want to thank Connie. She's doing the videoing and the editing. Connie Buckwater from marketing. I just want to put a shout out to her. Thanks, Connie. And we have a few clips that we're going to be showing you in between our virtual tour, and then Becky is going to open this up for a live question Q&A at the end of this, and there'll be more details from that coming from Becky Wise. So thanks again for joining us.
We're here with Ryan Gunzenhauser, Backhouse Assistant Director. He is here to tell us a little bit more about what goes into a standard menu cycle.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us. Here at Woodcrest Villa, we are running a 5-week menu cycle, and I get asked a lot of times, hey, what goes into making that menu? So I'm going to talk about that with you today. It's actually a multi-step process that takes several weeks to complete. The first step in that is deciding, hey, what are we going to put on our menu? We spend a lot of time talking to residents, talking with our staff, reviewing things online, seeing what other restaurants are doing, seeing what other retirement communities are doing, to try to give you all a really good mix of some traditional food, ethnic food, some more modern stuff, and try to kind of make something for everyone who lives here. A little bit about that cycle that is very interesting, at least to me. We've got over 420 recipes that are going into that 5-week cycle. Out of the 420, we've got 75 different entrees, 69 soups, 10 made-to-order salads. We've got 140 side dishes and 35 desserts. Out of those 35 desserts, we're making about half of those in-house. The other half are coming from places like Bird and Hand Bake Shop, some of our other vendors, to try to give you all a really good variety. Once we kind of figure out, hey, this is what we want to do for our 5 weeks, we spend a lot of time creating the recipes, obviously, but then we need to test them and sort of type up what we think is going to work to make enough portions for 200 people. It's a really easy process to go home, look up a recipe for 2 people or 3 people and be able to pump that out. But to be able to take that recipe and convert it into something that's going to work to make over 200 portions in bulk production to maintain for our buffet service, takeouts, and deliveries and all of those other things is a little bit more complicated. So that's kind of what goes in to making our 5-week menu cycle and how we come up with our recipes. Okay, now that we figured out what we're going to have on our 5-week menu cycle and we have all of our recipes compiled and tested, the next step in the process is to figure out our preparation and production sheets for each day of the menu cycle. So for all 35 days of the cycle, we have an individual sheet that we make up. That prep sheet includes all of the day's preparation, all of the preparation for the following day. It'll include items that we have to pull out of the freezer to thaw ahead of time. It includes all of the garnishes that are going on the food for the day, the production for the day. We take our team and decide who's going to do what time they're going to do the different items, and we put all that together to make the day's menu work. And then at the bottom of that, there's also a food waste log that we carefully track every day. That food waste log allows us to track all of our leftovers and what we're doing every day so that I can take that information and adjust the recipe sizes, how much we're ordering, and just try to keep that close to the amount of food that we're actually using throughout the day. It really helps us control all of our costs. Once that's compiled, then I'm able to take all of that information to create all of our inventory and order guides. We need to know what days we need to have things coming in, how far in advance we need to order the food so that we have everything in-house that we need to make our menu for every day. A lot goes into that. It is a time-consuming process. Each one of the weeks on our cycle has over 200 items that we need to order in. And that's just from our broadline normal vendors. That's not including all of the produce, all of the milk, all the staple items that we get in here on a regular daily basis. We take the time to make sure all of our production sheets and inventory sheets are all lining up with where things are located, where they're at on our order sheets, and then we take that and line that up with where things are located on our online order guides that we actually use to place all of our orders. So that really lets us streamline our process and get everything we need in-house. Once that's done, that's sort of the final step of the menu cycle process. I take all of that information, take my menu, and I actually will create all of the menus that you all see around the building on the digital signage boards, the menus that get sent out on MailChimp, things that are posted on 957, and all the paper copies that go out on your mailboxes every week.
At this point, I just wanted to ask Ryan a few questions. We'll do a little bit of Q&A. Ryan, where do you order food from? Do you use different vendors, or do we use all the same vendor?
Actually order food from a whole bunch of different vendors. We use US Foods as our main broadline vendor. They're bringing us the majority of our items. I order over 100 items for them twice a week, each week of the menu cycle. There are some other items I order from Feasers. They're one of our other broadliners. They carry some more local things that the national vendors don't carry. For our produce, I'm ordering from Kegel's Produce and Scheid Produce to get all of our produce needs in. I'm getting seafood from Henry's Seafood. We order all of our meats from Gross Meats in E-Town. And there's a few other bakeries and things that I get food from. We really try hard here to use our local market to get a good chunk of our food from. So like I said, we order from Gross Meats in E-Town. They're local, they're a 4th generation business. We order our seafood from Henry's Seafood. They're in Pelham, New York. They're running back and forth to the docks in Philadelphia to get us fresh fish every day. They're overnighting us stuff from out of state when we need it. Both of our produce vendors are local. As I mentioned before, the bakeries are local. Terranetti's is in Mechanicsburg. Colebrook Bakery is in Middletown. And there's a couple other places around here that we're getting food from.
Very good. Ryan, can you tell me what happens? We have a posted menu, and sometimes residents will see a change come through. What happens? What happened that would create a menu change in the middle of a week, or a posted menu that had already went out to the residents?
Well, there's a lot of things that could actually cause a menu change. Usually, the biggest cause is simply we order something from a vendor and they short us on our delivery. For example, I will order 145 pounds of ribs, let's say, to come in for us to do our baby back pork ribs. It's a large quantity menu item, and sometimes, not a lot, but the vendor won't have it available, or they will ship our delivery and not tell us that it's not coming, and then suddenly we get to our menu cycle and food hasn't come in for the day. So basically at that point, it's a last minute scramble for our team. Since we're having to make such a large amount of food every day, it's not always as simple as running to the grocery store to get, prime rib. Like we're making 12 prime ribs on our menu here when we have it menued, and I can't just get prime rib at the grocery store in that quantity. They simply don't have it. So a lot of times I've got the staff raiding the freezers, looking in the fridge, coming up with, hey, we've got enough eggplant parmesan that we could run that tomorrow since our food didn't come in today. And so we'll make that menu change so that we can have enough food for everybody for the day. And at that point, then we're sending out emails and trying to post on 957 that there's a change. I'm changing the posted menus in all the areas, and we're just trying to get the word out that there's a change. Some other things that could go into there. I mean, it could be something as simple as we've got salmon in for the day, and we go to open up our fresh salmon, and maybe some of the salmon's not any good, and then we are running to the store. Usually, I could come up with something for that, but maybe not, or a dessert doesn't come in that we've ordered, or it could be anything. But typically, everything comes in, but occasionally there is an issue with that.
Okay, thank you. And the next question, how do you help keep the food healthy for the resident family here at Woodcrest? What are some things that you and your production team do?
Well, there's a lot we actually try to do here. We get asked a lot about that. Basically, I'm ordering gluten-free, low-sodium soup bases, for example, for all of our soups. We're trying to keep the sodium levels down. We're using like a butter-margarine blend or just margarine when recipes call for butter. Now, there are some recipes where like you have to use butter because the recipe will fall apart or whatever it is because of the fat content's just not there on margarine to be able to hold things together. But we're typically using low sodium products. We don't add salt to stuff. We'll get comments like, "Oh, this is salty." We're actually not putting salt in items. Some items though do have salt, like soy sauce, but we're using the low sodium soy sauce. We try to use low fat products where we can, and we have a good variety on our menu every day. There's salads are available, grilled chicken's available, fish is available, baked chicken legs are available. There's always something there if you really want to make a healthy choice, and we try to encourage people who are looking for that healthy choice to make that. Of course, a lot of it boils down to food portion size and what you'd like to have for the day, and that's kind of how we go about it.
Very good. And the last question I had for you, Ryan, how has COVID affected food service, specifically from the production standpoint and ordering food?
COVID has affected us greatly, obviously, as it's affected everyone. If you're a resident who's been here long term, you know that the dining rooms have been closed and we haven't been able to do our normal dinner service, seated service, or our normal buffet. So for me and the team, there's been a lot of change. It's constant. We've got moving regulations from the state and the CDC that we're constantly trying to meet. We've moved away from our old service to doing deliveries for a while, and then we were doing takeout, and then we were able to open seating and we had to close seating, and it's really been back and forth. And for the team, it's been a challenge to constantly have that change happening to their daily processes. But they've really done a great job of adjusting to that on a daily basis. From a food ordering standpoint, COVID has been a challenge in many ways. Some of them are obvious. Early on during the crisis, we were hearing things like, the pork plants out in the Midwest were closing because COVID was going through them and the price of food was going up. And obviously we have a budget to stick to, so food cost has been a big contributor to change right now. Prices are still very high for beef and other items, so we're constantly looking at the market and where we can get stuff from them. And to the point that, to the question that Sean had asked previously, manufacturers have been changing what they're making, so we are unable to menu certain items simply because the manufacturer is no longer making it. For example, Stouffer's made a corn pudding that we had on the menu and everyone loved it. They actually stopped making that during the pandemic, and I can't order that anymore. So we've created a recipe to try to mimic that, but it's not the same thing. There's other days where we order 120 items from our food vendors, and 15 of them don't come in. They're simply just not available. That's when you're seeing some menu changes like we talked about before. A lot of times these are not with any warning, so we order the stuff, it confirms, and I'm expecting it to come in on a Friday, and when the delivery comes, it could be, oh, your chicken didn't come today. So then I'm scrambling for other vendors to try to come up with chicken or whatever it might be. So it's been a challenge, but for the most part, we've been able to work our way through it and still provide everybody with a great meal.
Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you for giving us an overview today of production and backhouse operations. We are now here with Sarah Freed, Front House Assistant Director. Some of you may have met Sarah already. She joined our team back in July. If you haven't met Sarah yet, that's probably due to COVID-19 and our dining rooms not being open. So we are looking very forward to getting to that at some point, at which I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot more of Sarah. With that, I will turn it over to Sarah to tell us a little bit more about herself and some of her responsibilities.
Hi guys, I'm sure I've seen most of you in passing. Something I'm really looking forward to is having the dining rooms open so we can all kind of interact again. I love like the energy of like a full dining room and everyone getting to know each other. Well, my pathway to food service was a little diverse. I started out as a Spanish teacher, and I always had a side job in catering or hospitality. I worked at Wicky's in New York, which maybe some of you have heard. We did business in Lancaster, and we did a lot of parties for the government. So I worked in Harrisburg. I've been at the governor's mansion a few times. I met Clarence Thomas. So it was I learned a lot. I actually met Sean and Ryan and Elaine when I was working at Wegmans. I was their catering manager there, but they called it a team lead role. And, kind of during the height of COVID, they needed some help, and Elaine was kind enough to suggest that maybe I'd be interested in this job, which I was. And so that's a very abridged version of my career. Right now, some of my roles entail, I do front of house, so I handle the servers, and they're kind of under me. There's some cross sections between Ryan and I. My duties include payroll, scheduling, which probably sounds a lot easier than it is, catering when we finally start up and running, which hopefully with the COVID vaccine will be soon. What else? Probably a lot more I'm not mentioning.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, and we're grateful that you joined our team back in July, and we're looking forward to working with you, and we're really looking forward, like you said, to getting these dining rooms open at some point, hopefully in the near future, but we'll have to wait and see how things are going. Thanks so much.
Thank you.